So I've just created a project called CS111DE, distance equation using subs. We're trying to continue this idea of using subs to do the work for us. And the idea is to have a user enter 2 points, and then we want to determine the distance between those 2 points. So I'm going to add a button, a label, and a text box. And I'm going to change my graphical user interface such that it looks like this. I'll say enter the point x1, and then I'll put a text box underneath it, like this. I'll reduce the size of this. I think it looks better if it's centered, so let me see if I can center it here. Kind of difficult to center it. How about this? I'll change it so that the auto size is false. Now I can center this over here, and boom, right there. I want to center that text, so I'll go to the alignment, here text align, let's say top center. That looks better. Yeah, nice. Okay, I'll just take these two, Control C, Control V as in Victor, put that over here. Now I've got to change this to Y1. So I'll go to the text property, type in Y. Nice. So the user is going to enter X1 and then I1. I'll take these 4 items, copy and paste, put them a little bit lower so that the user can see that these are really 2 different points that they're entering. I've got to change that to X2. And then I've got to change this one over here to Y2. All right. And then I'll put a button under here. And I think I'm going to need this thing to be a little taller, because I'm going to say something like, calc distance or something like that. So I'll take that button, calc distance. I guess I could put the entire calculate here. Calculate. There we go. Calculate distance. And because I have a little bit of room over here, I think what I'll do is I'll just take these guys and open them up a little bit. Over here like this. And make this guy a little bit bigger. And then therefore make this one a little bit bigger. Something like that. I know I'm being picky here. Just trying to utilize the screen real estate as much as possible. Something like that. Open this guy up a little bit, and also the label. Something like that. Okay. And then, of course, we're going to have to place the answer down here, so I'll just take a label, copy and paste a label, and we'll make the border style single. I'll open up this label so it looks something like this. I don't want the text to be in the top center. I want it to be in the middle. So for the text align property, I'll change that to this guy over here, middle center. And I got to get rid of that text. So text property, delete. Perfect. Then we get rid of these buttons, the minimize and the maximize button. So I'll select this guy over here. Maximize box, minimize box, set that to false. Boy, I sure don't have a lot of room here for a title. So the text property will just say dist for distance. I wonder if I can get how many letters I can get away with. Distance. Hey, I was able to get the entire word distance in there. That's good. Save my work. Let's give names to the various items. So this guy over here. This will be txt x1, txt y1, txt x2, txt y2. Of course, this is going to be btn calculate distance. And then finally, LBL result. So let me just double check to make sure that my names are assigned. Here I have TXTX1, TXTY1, TXTX2, TXTY2, BTN calculate distance, LBL result. Looks like we're good. I'm going to double click the button and I'm going to create a sub. The name of this sub is calculate distance. Now, this calculate distance sub requires four things. It requires x1, y1, x2, and y2. In other words, it requires the location of those 2 points. So I'll do this by val, x1 as integer. By val, y1 as integer. By val, x2 as integer. By val, y2 as integer. Enter. Can I send more than one parameter to a sub? Yeah. In this case, I'm sending 4 parameters. x1, y1, x2, y2. I can send as many things as I want. Well, in this case, I'm going to use those values to determine the distance. Now, maybe I made a mistake here. I said that they have to be an integer because, you know, in our Cartesian coordinates, it's really nice to be able to place things right on the whole numbers, on the 1, 1 location or the 2, 1 location, so forth and so on. But I think maybe I should have made these doubles because it could very well be that the user wants to place this on 2.3 or 4.5. So I'm going to change all these words from integer to double. I recommend you do the same thing. Go ahead and change all those to double. That way the user can really enter anything. It doesn't just have to be an integer. They can enter any real number. I need to display something inside of the label. This label .text needs to receive the distance. Well, that's going to be a number, so I'll say convert dot to string, open my parentheses, close my parentheses, put the cursor right back in here. Okay, so the mathematical result that we're going to come up with, it's going to convert it to a string, put it into that label. What is the distance equation? So as I look up on the board, do you see how the outer equation really is a math.sqrt, open and close parentheses, put my cursor inside there. When I look at the board, I see that it's the square root of, and then everything underneath the square root or inside of that square root. So that's why I do this, math.sqrt, with the cursor blinking inside. All right, looking at the board at the distance equation, it looks like we have x2 minus x1 quantity squared. Well, the only way you're going to get that squared business is to use the math.pow function. So I say math.pow, open and close parentheses, put my cursor right back in there. The reason why I like doing the open and close parentheses business is it keeps the equation balanced. So I don't have to remember, oh, did I add a parentheses at the end because I typed one at the beginning. Just do it right from the get-go like this. Move your cursor right back in. So let's look at the board. Do you see where it says x2 minus x1 quantity squared? See that? So let's take care of the x2 minus x1 part. x2 minus x1. So as I look on the board, that takes care of that, comma. Now I have to square this. So what number should I place in here? 2. So this part right here takes care of the part of the equation x2 minus x1 quantity squared. All right. As I look at the board, what's after the x2 minus x1 quantity squared? What operation is next? You see the plus symbol there? So over here, plus. Now I look at the board and it says y2 minus y1 quantity squared. Well, how am I going to get that quantity squared business? It's got to be math.pow. So math.pow, open and close parentheses, put your cursor right back in there. All right, let me look at the board here. It says y2 minus y1 quantity squared. So let's take care of the y2 minus y1, comma, quantity squared. So I move the cursor to the end, press enter. Wow, I can't believe it. I didn't get any errors. Because I was careful by making sure to type the open and close parentheses for each step so that I wouldn't have an imbalance of parentheses. That's it. When you call this thing, and when you give it x1, y1, x2, y2, it will calculate the distance between those 2 points. So now I'm going to go back over here to my distance, or to my btn calculate distance click event, and I'll say declarations, get user input, calculation, output. Those are the general comments that we type for every program. In terms of declarations, what we're going to do is we're going to say the dim user num as double, because I don't know if the user is going to give me a number with a decimal point. They could give me 4.5. They could give me 5.0, so forth and so on. Actually, instead of user num, what am I talking about? This will just be this. We'll say x1, x1 point, y1 point, x2 point, y2 point. I forgot. This guy is supposed to give us 4 points. So we'll call them x1, y1, x2, y2. And now let's get the user input. So that's x1, convert dot to double, whatever's inside of the text box. Same thing for y1, to double, whatever is inside of that. I'm going to take these two, copy and paste them. Copy, paste. I'm going to go to the overwrite mode and change that to 2. And change these to 2. Double click on overwrite. Go back to that insert mode. Let me save my work. Okay, so we've obtained the user input from the form. Get this, get this, get this, get this. Okay, that's exactly what we're doing. We're getting the user input from these various text boxes. Well, we are now ready to display the results in the label. And I have a function that takes care of that. It's called calc distance. So over here, I think this is really not a calculation. This is more just like outputting the results by calling calculate distance, parentheses. What does it require? Notice when I enter the parentheses that it gives me an indication that it requires 4 things. It requires this double, the second one, the third one, and the fourth one. I notice that it says x1 and y1, so it looks like it's that 1 point. x1 point, comma, y1 point, comma. Looks like over here I need x2 and y2. So x2 point, y2 point. Enter. That's it. You call this thing, it determines the distance for you, it displays it on the label. Let's see what happens. So on the board here I have 1, 1, and the other one is at 5, 4, calculate the distance, 5. Because remember what I was telling you about before about the famous 3, 4, 5 triangle? As you can see on the board, the height of this triangle is 3, the length of it is 4, and so the hypotenuse, that's got to be 5. And sure enough, that's where it is, right here, 5. Okay, so this is another usage of the calculate distance, or not another usage of calculate distance, rather. This is an example of using a sub to be able to calculate the distance. And so we give it parameters and it goes from there.